Authorities have identified a gunman who opened fire at a Texas church over the weekend. Keith Thomas Kinnunen fatally shot two people inside the West Freeway Church of Christ. It happened in the city of White Settlement, Texas. The 43-year-old was killed by a volunteer security guard at the scene. Mireya Villarreal spoke with the man whose actions authorities say saved countless lives.
Jack Wilson knew something was wrong the moment the gunman walked into the church.
He was wearing a wig and a fake beard and a toboggan on his head.
During the second half of the Sunday communion, he got up and had a brief interaction with one of the victims, Tony Wallace. Nearby was another member of the church's security team, Richard White.
Richard actually, got his gun out of the holster, according to the videos that I've seen. And I think he got a shot off, but as he was being hit, but it, went into the wall.
And you took a pause because you were
I had people
analyzing.
In front. At that point, the shooter, I guess, caught out of the corner of his eye because he was walking down towards the front of the auditorium. He then kind of halfway turned towards me, and that's when I took the shot because I had a full frontal face.
Wilson, a firearms instructor and head of the church's volunteer security, fired one shot.
I took out some evil. And that's the way that's the way I'm processing it, is I took out someone that was evil and had evil intent.
The 43-year-old suspect, Keith Thomas Kinnunen, had been arrested multiple times since 2009, including weapons charges in Texas and New Jersey.
He could have shot more people.
Isabel Arreola was sitting with her family, including her 7-year-old daughter, feet away from the gunman.
Thank God that our church was proactive and did all that and put that in place, because it could have been worse.
CBS News correspondent Mireya Villarreal is in White Settlement, Texas. Mireya, what have you learned about the suspect?
So as of right now, we were able to confirm through Oklahoma court documents that the gunman had a history of violence and mental health issues. In fact, his ex-wife was granted an emergency protective order back in 2012 as they were getting a divorce. And so clearly these issues, along with his criminal past, which we also know he had some gun charges out of Texas and New Jersey as well, those are things right now that investigators are taking a very close look at, because that is going to lead to hopefully more information about how he was able to get a hold of a gun.
And Mireya, what more do we know about the two parishioners who were killed?
So we know that both Tony Wallace and Richard White were longtime parishioners here of this church. Just a few minutes ago, the White family actually released a statement talking about who has survived him. So he has a wife, he has 3 children, their spouses, and 7 grandchildren. He loved the outdoors. He was an Eagle Scout, and they say that he was a very adamant volunteer, a very energized volunteer for the security team for the church. He would have done anything to help out anyone.
Just heartbreaking. Mireya, you also spoke with Jack Wilson, who shot down the gunman using a gun he brought into the church. Are firearms allowed in places of worship throughout the state?
So back in 2017, after the Sutherland Springs shooting, we definitely saw a push here in Texas to allow parishioners to carry their concealed handguns. On top of that, later on, the state also worked to make sure that any sort of fees that were associated with carrying those concealed handguns or having security teams in place in places of worship like this, that all those fees were waived by the state of Texas. So that just kind of went into place back in September of this year. So this comes at a very unique time for a lot of the churches around Texas. A lot of them saying that this is something that they are taking a very close look at right now.
Yeah, and Mireya, how have community members responded to this?
This is a very tight-knit community. As you can see from the video, there were over 200 people actually in the church at the time. So a lot of those families have rallied around each other. We spoke with one woman yesterday who says she is getting constant calls from not only her family, but for other parishioners as well, just checking on each other, making sure that they're all okay. As you can see behind me, there is probably a whole lot of traffic going back and forth, and that's because there is going to be a vigil here tonight that is open to the general public. There will be a smaller one for those affected inside the church, but there will be a larger public vigil for anybody who wants to come later on. And I think that they are expecting a lot of response from the community, from surrounding churches as well.
Yeah, I imagine there is going to be an outpouring of support for that church and its members. All right, Mireya Villarreal. Mireya, thank you.
Thanks, Elaine.